Barbapedana. Milanese. Barbapedana is a word of uncertain origin that refers to a Milanese minstrel and cantastorie, story singer, that sang in such places as trani, the Milanese traditional osterie, i.e., pubs, while the word Barbapedana dates back at least to the 17th century. The Barbapedana, per antonomasia, was Enrico Molaschi, active in the late 19th century. Many rhymes from his repertoire have remained in the popular culture of Milan. For example, this is the case for the lines that Barbapedanna sang to describe himself, such as Barbapedanna gh'aveva gilet, Rott denanz strasciaa dedree. That is, Barbapedanna wore a gilet, broken in front and ripped off in the back. And for the nursery rhymed a piscinin chilera. So small he was, about a man who was so small that he could do such things as dance on top of a coin, or make 200 shirts out of a piece of fabric. History of the Barbapedanna. The origin and meaning of the word Barbapedanna are uncertain. Poetry by some, Barbapedanna, from Veneto, dating back to the 17th century, is reportedly preserved in the Biblioteca di San Marco in Venice. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, in his Confessions, mentions a cousin nicknamed Barbapedanna. While it is unclear whether there is any relation between these and Barbapedanna, it is reasonable to believe that the Milanese minstrels of the 17th century were representatives of an older tradition that possibly extended across northern Italy and other areas of southern Europe. The oldest known reference to the word Barbapedanna is possibly found in Carlo Maria Maggi's dialectal play Il Barone di Burbanza, 1696, lines 324 to 325. L'Hodij Parquage che portan la capaccia, fin de Barbapedanna, che fa bandera sulla dell'andana, where Barbapedanna is described as someone who puts his cloak on top of his sword's grip, like a flag. This is supposedly a reference to the habits of the dandy, playful Milanese youth of the time. Poet Gaetano Crespi reports an anonymous poem, also of the 17th century, which has this reference to the cloak appended to the sword, possibly an influence of Maggi's works, but otherwise describes the Barbapedanna as a funny minstrel, and states that the cloak's lining was ripped off, that the man was a man of carnival, homme de carnevale, and that he was 1 span tall, voltuna spunner, all of which are direct references to Barbapedanna's most popular tunes. Barbapedanna havol na capaccia, senza color, con la fodri di strasciaa, l'era bandera sulla dell'andana, quando la portava in gir Barbapedanna, l'era homme de carnevale voltuna spunner, e questvan nomus Barbapedanna, leva stom incitant piscinin, cal posseva balla ben su un quatran. As this description includes the main traits of the Barbapedanna as it is remembered today, and even obvious references to his most popular songs, it can easily be argued that an essentially immutated Barbapedanna heritage was passed over from one generation to the next, at least since the 17th century and possibly earlier, down to the last representatives of the genre, who were active in the early 20th century. Enrico Molaschi. The best-known interpreter of the Barbapedanna was Enrico Molaschi, 1823 to 1911. A description of his figure and style is found in several sources of the time, including Arrigo Boito's essay on traditional street music, an essay on Milanese traditions by Severino Pagani, and a book of Milanese poet and scholar Luigi Medici. According to these sources, Molaschi had met a former Barbapedanna in the outskirts of Milan, in the area of Porlo, and later took on his heritage, after becoming a popular minstrel himself. In 1862, Molaschi relocated with his family to Milan, namely to a house in the district of Porta Tosa. Besides playing in the osterie, he was invited at celebrations, and in summer he was a regular of the garden parties in the luxury villas in Brianza. He was so popular that Queen Margherita of Savoy invited him to play for her in the royal villa of Monza. Also, one year he was honored with the role of King of the Carnevale Ambrosiano, Milan's carnival. In any case, especially in the last part of his life, Molaschi usually played in the area of what are now Piazza Loreto and Corso Buenos Aires. Boito, who could actually see Barbapedanna Molaschi play when Molaschi was in his 40s, describes him as surprising musician and a guitar virtuoso, and as a muscular and energetic man. Flagani and Medici, on the other hand, describe Molaschi as an old man in the early 20th century, depicting him as short and rather fat, wearing an old dark coat and a top hat adorned with a squirrel's tail. Barbapedanna's most popular songs were the aforementioned De Piscinin and Barbapedanna L. Gh'aveva on gilet, and La Tegnoura, the bat, with lyrics by Milanese poet Averardo Busci. Anyway, he usually adapted these songs to the audience he played for, so that his exhibitions were always partially based on improvisation. For this reason, he is also remembered as an interpreter of the bossonada, a Milanese literary genre that is based on dialectal improvisation in verses. Molaschi performed until the early 20th century. By then, he had lost his teeth, as he could hardly sing. He mostly whistled his tunes. He was eventually admitted to the Bagina retirement home, where he died on the 26th of October 1911. His guitar, created in 1823 by renowned Milanese luthier Antonio Rovetta, is now exposed at the Museum of Musical Instruments of Milan. Molaschi's heritage greatly contributed to the Barbapedanna tradition and to the Milanese folklore in general. For example, it is a consequence of Molaschi's great popularity if the song De Piscinin that actually predates the 19th century and is traditional of most of northern Italy, is usually referred to as a typical Milanese song. After Enrico Molaschi, Molaschi was not the last Barbapedanna, although the tradition began to fade after his death. Ethnomusicologist Roberto Ladi accounts for at least another Barbapedanna claiming to be Molaschi's direct heir, active in the first half of the 20th century, and Luigi Veronelli mentions a Barbapedanna Sandro Zonca who was a regular guest at the Boscio Fila Martesana, a Boschi club on the Navigli, who was problematic and indulged in profanity, a fact that Veronelli ascribes to Zonca's awareness of the fact that he was one of the last in popular culture. The traditional songs by Barbapedanna have been recorded by several authors. A notable example is Nanni Svampa's recording of I Tornato Barbapedanna. Barbapedanna is back. Barbapedanna is also the name of an Italian Collettismo band. Footnotes. Arrigo Boito, 1870. La musica in piazza. Ritratti di Gilari e Menestrelli moderni in Gazzetta Musicale. Ricordi. 8, 9, 14, 16, 20. Republished in 1931 in Critiche e Cronache Musicali. The original edition was credited to Tobia Gorio, anagrammatic pseudonym of A. Boito. Gaetano Crespi. 1913. La metamorfosi di canzoni e cantilene popolari e le fonti del Barbapedanna. In La Lombardia, N. 45. Milan. 14 February 1913. Roberto Ladi. Il Barbapedanna. In Milano e il suo territorio. Silvana Editorial. Luigi Medici. 1933. Vecchi Ostri Milanesi. Severino Pagani. 1974. Il Barbapedanna e alta figura e figurine della Milano di Ieri. Virgilio. Carlo Rumasi, Milano Chasefug, Carlo Ali Prandi editor, Luigi Veronelli, Ausondles C. Dantan. Published in Guida I Misteri e Segreti di Milano. Sugarco 1977.